People often say academic research takes too long to help teachers and principals in their quest to improve kids' learning.
I remember when I was in grad school, a professor saying, education research doesn't get used. And then I remember thinking, then why am I here? This makes no sense. I don't want to do something that's not useful. Part of it is, by the time we get to answers, it's not useful for schools. They need to know what to do on Monday.
That's Deb Gerke, one of the experts at the Regional Educational Laboratory Midwest, REL Midwest for short, which looks for ways to bridge education, research, and practice. Work funded by the Institute of Education Sciences at the U.S. Department of Education. I'm Sarah Rand with REL Midwest in Chicago. Our researchers are working to improve education using real-time information that leads to real-time action for real-time improvement. Instead of researchers coming in and declaring what they'll research, we're working with practitioners, teachers, principals, and school administrators to figure out what's important to them. So here's the way it often goes for a traditional, rigorous research study. Have a question? We'll answer it in a couple of years. Want to know if a program's working? We'll study it for a few years and then get back to you. But sometimes teachers and principals need to know sooner if what they're doing in their school today might lead to promising outcomes for their students tomorrow. One of our latest projects brings together Michigan educators and REL Midwest staff to tackle education challenges together using a research design called continuous improvement. Here's my colleague, Deb Gerke again.
Continuous improvement research is just what it says. It's a continuous process. We're always looking at how it might be better. So what did we learn? What worked about what we learned? What didn't work about what we learned? What might have been unanticipated? And what do we do in the next phase of the work then? How do we take what we learned and apply it as we move to the next phase of the project? It also accounts for the variability that exists in schools. There are just so many different variabilities, right? We're talking about human beings, we're talking about human systems. One school is different than another school. The teachers are going to have different values. The community is going to have different values. There's going to be different situations and demographics of students.
So what Deb's saying is it's probably a little misguided to expect that we can take something and apply it across the board and have it work in the same way. Continuous improvement sounds like a promising strategy to use, a promising process because it takes into account relationships and how everyone is different. So let's hear Deb talk a little bit about the importance of these relationships.
When you're in a situation like education, acknowledging those relationships and finding common ground amongst all those different perspectives is really important because it's not simple. It isn't a clear-cut solution.
So the REL Midwest staff tried this continuous improvement process with educators and administrators in Michigan. Their challenge? To understand achievement gaps between student groups. And this group used the continuous improvement process and what they call a networked improvement community.
A networked improvement community is a group of individuals who are committed to working on the same problem of practice.
That's the project lead, REL Midwest researcher Monica Bott.
The networked part of this is really the part that helps to scale quicker than any one group of individuals could in a particular place. So if I'm doing something in Michigan, for example, and a group of individuals is doing something in Minnesota, and we're trying different things to get at the same goal, we can learn twice as fast.
In this continuous improvement project, the team of principals, district staff, intermediate, and state-level staff decided to tackle inequality by trying to improve students' math skills. The teachers tracked which days students had the opportunity to practice math. Principals were also involved and did walkthroughs in classrooms looking for specific examples of quality. Their mission? To make sure students practiced math fluency. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division facts at least 15 minutes a day, every day. Why is it important to know how to do math?
So we get smarter. So like if you're like shopping at a store, or like a bank, how many money you need.
Do you remember your facts? We all should have practiced more.
11 minus 2 equals 9.
You're listening to students at Wexford Montessori, a pre-K through 8th grade school in Lansing, Michigan, one of the schools that joined this project. Wexford had been designated as a focus school in 2016. Teacher Karen McKinstry explains.
The focus was that our minority subgroups, there's a big gap between, in our case, the Caucasian students and the minority students in their test scores. And so we're trying to bring that gap down amongst the subgroups.
Wexford's principal is Nancy Lubeski.
I'm here to see Principal Lubeski.
She's finishing up the meeting. She'll be with you in just a few.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
So how long have you been a principal for?
5 years.
5 years.
Yep. So we're just trying to finish teacher evaluations and all kinds of other things.
So how did you first become involved in the Michigan continuous improvement work?
I received an email from a colleague and he invited me to join the project. He was very interested in working with us as a focus school. He knew that our identified areas for improvement work were mathematics and science. He also knows that I love to do research, and I'm very interested in new creative approaches to solving problems and surmounting challenges.
So what attracted you to this group? When you learned more about it, why were you like, oh, yes, we'll definitely do that?
As the principal of a Montessori school that's preschool through 8th grades, I was very interested in involving myself in a project that was larger than myself. Often we feel like we're isolated in our individual schools, and I wanted to feel connected to a larger network of dedicated researchers, experts, people that could actually talk about the issue and then help to resolve the issue as well.
And what's it like? How would you describe being part of this group?
I really like it because it enables me to think outside of the box, and it removes me from my individual school building for the day, allowing me to go to a think tank where I'm getting expert perspectives from others from the intermediate school district, from the state, from Chicago, from other people that have different perspectives about solving issues that we're encountering at my school. And also I'm able to collaborate with people from other similar focus schools that are going through the same issues that we are and problem solving creatively as well.
How have the teachers reacted to the project? You've talked a bit about how they've been really supportive and really engaged and willing to work on this. Tell us more about that.
When I joined the project, I told my teachers about the project before I even went to the first meeting because I was excited having been invited to a research-based project focused on our Montessori school. And they were super excited before the first meeting. They were asking me all types of questions, and they wanted to know exactly what we've been discussing at the meetings. So I've been bringing information back to our meetings, sharing with staff, and they've been super excited with the initiative. They wanted to start our intervention before I was even ready. They wanted all the materials, they wanted all the information, they wanted to jump right on board and start doing the work, which was fantastic. Teachers have come to me with ideas about how to expand the intervention, how to make those family and home connections, how to spend time collaborating during professional development communities. They have had all kinds of ideas on how to extend and strengthen the work of the project, so it's been wonderful.
Teacher Karen McKinstry says, before launching the math fluency program, kids' math practice would be
Hit or miss. I mean, some kids that really enjoyed the math were doing it quite often on their own, but for a lot of them, because that's not their favorite subject, they wouldn't touch it as often. So it was very spotty. Now it's very consistent. They look forward to it.
What's that been like to collect data about what you're doing in the classroom and kind of participate in that project?
It really hasn't been that big a deal to me at all. We do it every day. I record it at night when I'm checking these. And what I do for mine is I not only record the days that we do it, which is basically every single day as long as we have school, but I also put down on the no side the students that I had that were missing that day, so that then if I can look back and I see, well, geez, Johnny's scores aren't really improving on this, I wonder why. Oh, well, out of 21 math days, he was only here for 10. Ah, that plays a piece into it.
What's the camera for?
It's a microphone.
Oh, well, the microphone.
It's to record a podcast.
Ready? Go.
8 plus 9 equals 17. 4 plus 5 equals 9. 4 plus 7 equals 11. 9 plus 9 equals 18. I did the best I can do. Sometimes I get a little frustrated. Time's up. Dang. That was good.
So 13 minus 4, that's a hard one, huh? What's 9?
That's hard. Like, what I just did is a 1-minute test, and like we write the answers down, and then like right here, like where the mark is, that's where you pass. Right now my goal is 27, so like if you get to that goal, you pass. But I didn't really pass.
I got a chance to practice too.
Can I practice?
Yeah.
Can I do a sheet?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't practiced in a while. I'm kind of nervous.
Okay.
Are you going to time me?
Yeah, 1 minute.
I have 1 minute?
Yeah.
You can't skip.
I can't skip?
No.
I forgot.
The project's lead, Monica Bott, explains how continuous improvement helps bridge two worlds: teachers and kids in the classroom, and researchers.
Because you have different types of expertise in the room. So in a networked improvement community, for example, you may have a teacher, you may have a principal, you may have a researcher, you may have somebody who specializes in measurement, you might have a policymaker who is trying to think about the feasibility of funding and resources, and you get all of these people in the same room, and they start to think, okay, how can we actually make this work? But they're thinking about how can we make something work from the vantage point of a practitioner. And I think that's really the difference. And that doesn't mean that, all of a sudden everybody gets into the same room and, there's this aha moment where everyone is like, aha, this is a silver bullet that we needed. I think that that's not the case. And one of the reasons that I think continuous improvement is such a powerful methodology is because it doesn't assume that we know what to do. So it doesn't assume that we know how to improve math fluency skills for all students. Instead, it says, let's work together, and it focuses on the process of continuous improvement.
So do you think continuous improvement works?
But I actually think a better question is, how does it work? And I think that focusing on the process in lieu of the outcomes may actually lead us to be surprised that the outcomes get there eventually.
I know you were working with schools and districts in Michigan, and you were wanting to improve students' math fluency, and your intervention was saying to the teachers, okay, practice math fluency at least 15 minutes a day, which they did, mostly. So this happened for a few months, and then at the end of the school year in May, you took a look at the student test scores, and what did those show?
I think, unsurprisingly, we didn't find that 15 minutes of math fluency practice a day was the surefire shot that was going to cure everyone's lack of math fluency skills in these schools. But what was interesting is that there were certain patterns of data that we could link back to the 15 minutes of math fluency. And I think perhaps more importantly, everybody sat around the table and said, well, why wouldn't we see this? We were all thinking about, well, did this work? Where did it work? If it worked in this particular classroom, can we replicate it in other classrooms? And I think that's the conversation that teachers in particular are interested in, and it's useful to them in their daily practice.
So in the course of just a few weeks, Principal Lubeski would learn about how this math intervention affected student test scores. In the world of education and research, that's quick.
It's too quick.
It's too quick.
And we're not exactly certain of our results yet because of that short
Okay.
time frame. I'm kind of reserving judgment at the moment because it's too short of a time. February, March, April really is what we were looking at, 3 months of data, which is not enough time to really make a solid judgment as far as how much progress was made and was it
Yeah.
because of this, or this.
So that time is too short.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times education research takes years.
Correct.
That's too long.
Correct. Because we want results now.
No results now. So what does this mean? Like, how can we do research to make it useful and applicable to improve student achievement?
What it means to me is that we need to continue with what we started, and this tends to be one of our deficits in education, is that we keep jumping from one thing to the next without giving it enough time to really make a solid judgment as to whether or not it works. So what we need to do is continue our work in the fall and start our work on day one, not waiting until January or starting a different implementation or a different intervention or anything different, but just keep doing the same things that we're doing so we can really validate our results and know for sure this is why this is happening or this is why this is not happening.
Project lead Monica Bott says these kinds of networked improvement communities can work elsewhere. but she offers a few cautions.
The first thing is I would start small. So I think starting small is a hallmark of being able to do something and do it well before you start to scale it up. And with something like a networked improvement community or a continuous improvement process, relationships between individuals and between organizations are so important. And so it's worth taking the time at the beginning to onboard everybody into what you're actually wanting to do and accomplish, and what the norms of the group are, and how to build trust between those relationships.
As the school year came to a close, community members came together for a reflection session. Here's Title I and School Improvement Coordinator Dodie Raycraft from Kalamazoo Public Schools.
Your role of keeping us going was critical. So I know if you hadn't been here, each month saying, here's what we're doing, it would have totally fallen apart. Just because there's so many other rocks at a district level that we're all trying to, or balls that we're trying to keep in the air, and rocks that
Whatever
we have to focus on.
whatever analogy you want to use.
Yeah. So, if this were to be expanded or continued or whatever with the department, that piece is critical.
There has to be a hub leader.
Here's the Kalamazoo Regional Education Service Agency's former school improvement specialist, Sharon Dodson.
I think it was a question of the state, is this a good way to support districts without having a lot of resources to do it? Can we do it through this mechanism? And so to me, I think it's worked really well in being able to provide this kind of a model that makes sense.
And Monica sums it up.
We've been asked to talk about this work over and over and over again, and that's very unusual. I feel like oftentimes I spend 5 years on a randomized control trial, and we put out these big reports, and everyone's like, "That's great. Like, I don't want to know about this," but people are really interested in and excited about this work because, as Matt pointed out, it's across various levels. It's focused on a problem of practice, and it's really getting at the heart of what people in education keep saying they want to do, but never have time to do.
After the school year ended, Principal Lubeski reflected on what would happen in the fall. Would the data collection continue?
Yes, because I think collecting data is also another deficit in our field. We get busy jumping from one thing to the next, and again, we don't take time to reflect and look at solid data. We might reflect in our minds, but unless we have that data backing us, it's really hard to draw accurate conclusions again. Yes, we saw progress, but I'd hope for more. And there's many reasons for that too.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I think we need to give it at least another solid year.
This is real-time change that reaches the classroom. It's a loop of feedback that fuels continuous improvement. It's educators and researchers working together in true partnership. Look for tips on continuous improvement and networked improvement communities in our Lessons Learned report, coming out in late 2016. Sign up to get email alerts about new research at relmidwest.org. For REL Midwest, I'm Sarah Rand.
Miss Small was telling me the other day she was coming to school, and the car in front of her, she couldn't see who it was, but all she saw out of the back windows were the math papers.
Funny.
So they were practicing math on the way to school.
This podcast is funded by the Institute for Education Sciences at the U.S. Department of Education. To learn more, visit ies.ed.gov.